Welcome back everyone to another Pokemon Auto Chess video. Let's have a little chat during these PvE rounds. So, this video is recorded during 6.6. I was out of town for the holidays a bit, and instead of getting the video finished, it sat while I spent time away. And lo and behold, I come back home to a brand new update 6.7, which actually made a lot of big changes. So just keep that in mind if you're familiar with any of the 6.7 update features, that there will be some differences in this video. After the last video, I hit top 100 and floated in the low 1300s for a few weeks, but unfortunately the meta shifted heavily into Psychic and Amorphous. I went on a really bad loss streak, my elo plummeted 80 or 90 points down, but you know, you keep playing, find your groove, get your confidence back. I've been working my way back up and am sitting just outside the top 100 again. I've been having some crazy games, so just need to get recording and save the good ones when they happen. So I have a treat for you all today. At the stage 4 carousel, we get an egg carousel, so anything I was planning on during the PvE rounds doesn't even matter anymore because I'm going to invest 10 gold into grabbing an egg, so whatever hatch unit this ends up being is pretty much what my team is going to revolve around. I'm not going to make that big of an investment early to just not use the unit I get, right? So I end up with a Snivy egg, who is a grass and field unit. These are the synergies I'm going to want to start working towards. And with how weak my current board is, and based on some scouting I did during the PvE rounds, I feel like I can pretty safely lose streak while recovering my economy from the 10 gold investment and building towards some grass and field units. For my ad pick, I grab myself the field unit in Purloin. While Minccino is available and is also a field unit, Purloin comes with the added benefit of black glasses. With my current items, I'm close to a full set of crit items, which will work great in a field team and great with my hatch unit. This fight actually turns out to be pretty interesting. I did a quick synergy check right before the round and saw that someone had switched to a baby team. I just hoped I wouldn't have to go against them since baby is a very easy team to beat. However, I got matched against them, but noticed they had items, which actually turned the tide into their favor for the fight and preserved my loss streak. My best guess is that they were trying to keep their losses close to preserve HP, but it backfired here against my team. In stage 6, there's nothing exciting in this round. A Fire-Light team with 2 evolved Pokemon takes care of my team pretty easily, although the positioning is a bit weird. In my opinion, the unevolved units should be acting as frontliners for the evolved unit, but that didn't affect the outcome of this fight, and I scout instead. Stage 7 is the same thing. A couple evolved units on this water team make pretty quick work of my weak units. I get to preserve my loss streak and keep saving up gold. When we get to the ad pick, I have a very easy decision to make. I get a field unit with a Twisted Spoon. This gives me access to a Reaper Cloth for spell crit and strengthens my synergy. At stage 8, another water team puts the smackdown on me. I was hoping to pick up at least 1 or 2 KOs to save some HP, but Psyduck gets a cast off, shield itself, and it's a clean sweep against me. Once I get to the Gyarados PvE round, Snivy hatches from its egg, and I go up to level 5 to help my chances against Gyarados. I also decide to dip below 50 gold to buy all the field units out of the shop because I don't want to keep locking them in the shop and effectively losing out on my free rerolls from having so many shop slots locked. I throw a Razor Fang and Reaper Cloth on Snivy with the intent to add in a 3rd crit item if I can get it. At the unique carousel, I'm able to get into a field portal, albeit with a little bit of drama. Inside the portal, I'm presented with Stantler, which opens up some interesting avenues with its wild, psychic, and field synergies. I immediately think of adding in Esper and Zigzagoon, 2 wild and field units, but it may take some luck to be able to get them. Wild units have a higher chance of appearing in the shop based on the stars you have between your field and bench units. Since Stantler is a 3-star unique, I have a 3% chance to see wild units in the shop. Now that we are in the mid-game, my goal will eventually be to start win streaking to turn this game around. First up is a fight against what will eventually be a very scary water and sound team. While the backline isn't doing too much damage yet, a Muscle Band Relicanth against my primarily AD-based team is an easy recipe for me to lose this round. At the next ad pick, there's no hesitation here for me, as I'm able to grab the last black glasses I need to create a scope lens to finish the full crit cast build for my Snivy. I also end up leveling up to 6 so I can activate field 6 synergy, which should give my team a good boost, especially with Snivy evolving soon. At stage 11 is a fight against an electric team. My team overall is still pretty weak, but we can see how adding that scope lens really helps Snivy get off a lot more powerful ability casts. In the end, Rotom is one of the best mid-game carries in the game and is able to pretty effortlessly dispose of my team. I also sell 1 unit off of my bench to remain at the 50 gold interest cap. Right away at the item carousel, I know that I want to grab another charcoal. Since I'm moving first, I basically get my pick of item. I already lost to that Relicanth, and I know from scouting the other teams that there's a ground and a fighting team. Red Orb will give me some true damage, which combined with Field's attack speed increase should help against these tankier teams a lot. For now, I switch Lillipup out with Mareep and give it the Red Orb. While weak, it is a unit I know I'm going to sell out of later for sure, whereas I am thinking of keeping Stantler in my team for the wild psychic synergies. In the fight, we are matched up against a ground normal team. My field units put up a good fight and are able to take out a lot of the weaker ground units. Stantler falls to the Dunsparce and the Piloswine. At the end of the fight, an evolved unit and a unique are easily able to beat 2 unevolved units, resulting in another loss. Before the stage 13 fight, I am able to evolve my units into Flaffy and Nidorino. Then, I'm matched up against a sound team with a Comfy and a Rocky helmet boosted Carbink, making the front line very tough to overcome. Snivy is able to take out the entire backline on its own with a couple of ability casts, but the team is never able to overcome the Carbink. It got chipped down to half health before the Comfy healed it back up, and alone Snivy isn't doing any damage against that Rocky helmet. The benefit of losing these fights really close instead of getting absolutely curb stomped is that I'm not bleeding as much HP as I would be, and I do get to keep the extra loss streak gold income. However, the more I lose now, the less room for error I have in the late game, and at this pace, I'm not even going to make it to the late game. I'm almost 13 HP below 7th place, so I need to get a couple wins to stay alive for the legendary pick. I level up to level 7 and decide to go hunting for a wild unit. I have my base 3% chance with Stantler, plus the extra 5% chance for a wild unit on PvE rounds, so this is the best time to roll. I immediately find a Zigzagoon, which fits the wild field synergy I was looking for. I grab a couple other wild units to increase my chances of finding other wild units in the shop. Once my team defeats Mew and Mewtwo, I get a Magnet and then choose black classes from the shop. I feel like on an AD heavy attack speed scale and comp, crit is never a bad thing. I'm also able to evolve Munna into Morshana, then we head into the next fight. Here we have a Psychic and Human team with Fighting splashed in. Most of this team doesn't end up being a problem for my field units, as my now Servine is able to wipe a lot of units out quickly with a few ability casts. However, as has been a pattern here, a Hitmonchan supported by Rocky Helmet, 2 Healing Berries, and Human Force Energy is essentially able to shrug off all of the damage my units are outputting and essentially wins a 1v4. At this point, I'm asking myself, do I actually just flame out and finish in 8th with this hole I'm in? And the stage 16 fight doesn't help my confidence either. I end up having the same problem that I've had against a lot of these other teams, a very bulky frontliner that my team can't break through. While Servine's ability casts have been making a lot of these fights really close because it is able to take down the backline units, it hasn't been enough to win the rounds. Servine nearly takes down the entire team on its own, but is left in a 1v2, it's no match, and one ability cast takes it out, leaving me at 16 HP on round 17. At the item carousel, I freeze up and hesitate really badly. I'm actually at a loss of what item I want to build since it feels like nothing I'm doing has been working. I initially go for black glasses, but then pause because of all the Rocky helmets that have been wrecking me. Eventually, I decide on a charcoal to pair with my magnet for a punching glove, with all of the attack speed I will have being able to deal percentage health as damage should get around some of the bulkiness that I'm having problems with. I go ahead and throw that punching glove onto Flappy, and then just settle for a smoke ball as my last item, which will give me a little extra survivability. I commit extra gold to hit level 8 because dying with 50 gold in the bank makes no sense because I can't use that gold next game. I throw in an extra wild unit to get the wild 4 bump and hope that this is enough to turn the tides for me a bit. And guess what? It is! Stantler's damage jumps way up this round, and I have a front line that can hold on for long enough to allow Servine to get multiple big casts off to wipe out a lot of the backline units. The punching glove on Flappy adds in a lot of extra damage and is able to fight through the Muscle Band Delibird and Shellbell Whiscash. At stage 17, I finally have my first win of the game. Phew. After some brief scouting, I quickly try to spread out my team to help mitigate some adjacent damage effects. This pays off as my next opponent is the Water Sound team with 2 very scary units in Clauncher and Brion. Stantler does a little dance before engaging any units, and Servine is the star of the show. It comes down to a 2v1, which Servine wins effortlessly. Servine did more damage than the rest of my team combined. At least for the time being, the team seems to be coming together a little bit, and we have made it to the legendary carousel. Servine evolves into Superior, so that unit is fully online now. The ideal legendary for this team will be one of Suicune, Entei, or Raikou to slot in as another wild and field unit. After the Lugia and Ho-Oh fight, I get a Stardust, which will help a unit with some survivability up front. At the carousel, I'm able to easily grab a field portal uncontested, and you wouldn't believe it, I get Spectrier as my legendary. Obviously, this is still going to be my legendary of choice, and it will fit in well with my field synergy. However, I was hoping for one of the beasts because of their field and wild synergy. This would complement my Stantler and other wild units with some extra attack speed. Regardless, I take what the game gives me, and I sell off Flaffy to transfer its items to Spectrier and put the Stardust onto Stantler. I also decide to full send it to hit level 9 since this activates my last level of field synergy. I had the money, and I'm too low health to play the slow game, so I need to string together some wins and let my economy sort itself out later. At stage 20, I fight an electric team, and this fight is over just about as fast as it starts. The electric bursts through my weaker frontline units, which quickly buffs up my 3 main damage dealers, and just like that, the fight is over. My team gets another buff here as Stantler evolves into Weirdeer, which happens 1 round after switching regions, and then I am pitted against the ground team. Spectrier's Red Orb is going to help here a lot to break through the defenses of ground. My superior gets to sit in the back once again and get a few massive casts off. My weaker units go down, but my main carries are never even remotely threatened in this one. An artificial item carousel pops up next, and I get my preferred item right in front of me. Since my field units will gain speed throughout the battle, the Magmarizer will be a very nice attack boost. I put it on Weirdeer, and then we go into battle. A lot of my weaker field units once again die off early, which busts my main carries. After clearing out the bulk of the team, Weirdeer is able to get into the back line to finish off Primarina, and as expected, Malouetta is the last Pokemon standing, but it can't withstand being triple focused by Spectrier, Weirdeer, and Superior for long. Before the next fight, I quickly roll down to try to get a better unit. Since I didn't get a legendary beast, there isn't much incentive for me to stay at Wild 4, and with some quick rolling, I'm able to throw a Whirlipede into my team, which will be much better of a unit than Esper. The fight ends up being against another Water Sound team with a very tanky front line. Palkia is able to get a huge cast off onto my carries, but goes down quickly to Spectrier right before it's able to get a second cast off. The Politoed in the back does some damage to my units, but this team is ultimately lacking any real backline damage, and I'm able to take it down. During the legendary birds round, I'm able to evolve Zigzagoon into Linoon and grab a Ditto that I end up using on Litten later to add another evolution to the team. I end up debating my item selection a little bit between Choice Scarf and Deep Sea Tooth, but end up deciding on the Tooth since my Weirdeer has a Stardust and I can get more shield from more ability casts. Spectrier initially looks like it's going to run straight up to the Kyogre, but has some weird pathing and ends up running underneath my team. Kyogre is focused on my Whirlipede though, and only gets a single target cast off. Primarina is in the back hitting my team hard. Superior quickly cleans up the back half of this fight as its casts melts the enemy backline. And strangely enough, with how the matchups ended up, I fight the same player back to back. And this fight basically goes the same way since our teams are basically identical to the last round. Kyogre is able to get some better cast off this time around, but Superior trumps it in the end again. The next item carousel, my gut instinct is to go for the Max Revive, but then I hesitate while looking at the other items. Unfortunately, this cost me the Revive, which was probably my best item in this scenario, so I just grabbed a Rune Shield to help my frontline carry stay alive longer. Definitely wasn't the best item choice, and I think I probably should have aimed for the Shell Bell after I lost out on the Revive. Before the next fight, I do some slight repositioning to help make sure that Spectrier doesn't get stuck in a weird pathing loop again. Then, it's another fight against the ground team. While Spectrier has that Red Orb equipped to deal true damage, Superior is the star of the show again with some huge ability casts. With Landorus sitting in the back, Superior is able to pierce multiple units every time it casts, and this one is over quickly. Let's go ahead and skip over the Legendary Beast PvE round, where I end up grabbing a green orb to put on Whirlipede. I spend time rolling down to replace the Nidorino that's been on the team for a bit too long, and accidentally skipping a Shinx in the process, so that replacement doesn't materialize before the fight. And for the third time in 4 fights, I'm going up against the same Water Sound team again. With my better positioning, Spectrier runs straight to the Kyogre, and is able to take it out, even with Kyogre getting multiple casts off. Superior is able to nuke the Primarina with 2 ability casts of its own, allowing us to take out this player for good. The ground team is looking mighty buffed up since the last time we fought, having a big Rhydon in the front line with the max revive that I hesitated on. Weirdeer gets its first cast off and dashes right to Landorus, who has Gabite and Seismitoad as bodyguards to take it out. I lose one carry early, and then Spectrier suffers the same fate. The units protecting Superior go down, and the last few ground units are able to pounce on it. The defeat ends up being close, and I think slightly better positioning, plus getting the max revive would have turned this one in my favor. But a comeback from last a second after dropping down to 16 HP on stage 17 is nothing to scoff at, and the field units served me well.